Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Friday Morning Devotions. Very thankful to have you along this morning, thinking about the weekend coming up, and many of you probably are already beginning to plan what you're going to do. If you don't have plans already, you may have everything planned out already as we run into the upcoming weekend, which is Father's Day weekend. And so just a weekend to celebrate some family and enjoy the blessings that we do have. Now, as I welcome you to Friday Morning Devotions this morning, I realize, and I heart hurting, realize that some of you did not have a father that was a good father. Some of you maybe didn't know your father. I know in the world we live in today, fatherlessness and the absence of a male father or male figure in a person's life and a children's life today has been just a real obvious issue that our current culture has. There's 1,000 reasons, I'm sure, that each of us could say as to why that this has happened. I am not here this morning to try to figure out or to be critical or wax wise on all of the reasons why or even all the solutions. I just want to say this to those of you who are at a place where that you do not have a father that you could remember this weekend, a father that you could celebrate this weekend. My heart goes out to you, and truly, I want to say to you in a way that hopefully is helpful. I truly want to communicate to you that Jesus Christ loves you, that that love that Jesus has can make up for a love that a father didn't give you. As a matter of fact, the love of Christ can make up for all of the missing loves of our life. So just realize how much that he cared for you. If you're having a struggle with who Jesus is, I understand that as well. Not everybody also has a Christian background. But I just want to encourage those of you who are hurting that my heart goes out to you, and that doesn't fix everything. But I want you to know that I know and recognize that your pain is real and that your struggle is awful, awful difficult. And to be honest with you, I can't imagine what it must be like, because in my world, as I'm getting ready to share, I had a father that I can continue to celebrate and enjoy memories of. So I just encourage those that are hurting to look to someone, specifically if you can find it in your heart and faith to look towards Christ. It doesn't mean that every memory goes away. It just means that every memory is covered by his grace. And something that's very difficult and we don't do very well as humans sometimes, and that is we live in the past too much. And because we live in the past too much, it always has a tendency to derail us and derail our future. So I hope that you'll find some way to get through that difficult past and find productive ways to use the negative to turn into energy to do something good in your life. So as we move forward, I want to honor my dad this morning. I'm going to share some memories and a few lessons that I learned from him. As we get started, I want you to tell me then, what is your favorite memory of your dad? What is your favorite memory of your dad? Just comment down below. For those who have great memories of their father, comment down below and let me know what your favorite memory is. And then I thought also, there may be some of you who are unfortunately children of a father like me, and that is you have a lot of dad jokes. So if you want to share your favorite dad joke in the comments below, please feel free to do that as well. Just remember that groans may follow your joke. So feel free to put them down. Just don't put them down with thin skin, because they just might get made fun of, okay? So if you would, just real quickly, comment down below what's your favorite memory of your dad, or favorite dad joke. Share it down in the comments below, okay? So here we go. Here are some memories I have of my dad, and some of the things that I think about as I get ready to go into the Father's Day weekend. The first one is the best Christmas gift I ever got. Now, obviously, Mom and Dad are both involved in this, but it was my dad that went with me to initiate why this Christmas gift is so amazingly memorable. I turned the big 1-6. That's right. At one point in my life, I was 16 years of age. I know I don't look 16 anymore. I only look 21, I understand. But, hey, Mom dropped me in pickle juice when I was a child, and I preserved fairly well. So, but Dad was the one who initiated this. I turned the 1-6, the big 16. And when I turned 16, my dad began to help me try to find a car. And so we went down to one of the little beat up local car dealers there in Pontiac, Michigan, where I grew up. And we went down, it was down on Montcalm. For those of you who are listening from Michigan, Montcalm, specifically in Pontiac there. I don't remember the name of the dealership. I just remember this. We got there and all the vehicles there were really not great vehicles. But unfortunately, on my budget, it was the only dealership that my dad knew we could go to. Now, there may have been one or two others, but we didn't make it to one or two others because my itch for wanting a car, wanting to drive, was pretty heavy. And so we looked around and I found it. There it sat in the corner of the lot. There sat the one car I had to have. Well, maybe had to have isn't the right term, but it was a brown 1971 or 72 Pinto. Remember the firebomb Pintos? If you hit them in the back, they exploded. Well, I bought one of those for my 16th birthday. What an wow thing. And not only was it the most incredible brown and primer and rust holes, but it was also only $288, which I didn't have. So I had some, I don't remember how much it was, but the vast majority of it I didn't have. And so my dad agreed to lend me the $288 or the balance of the $288 I didn't have. And the reason he did that is because he knew the other money I had needed to go towards insurance. What a crazy thing. The insurance costs more than the car. It's crazy, you know. So we buy this car. Dad lends me the money. And that was somewhere in the middle of November. Come Christmas time, 4, 5, 6 weeks later, come Christmas time, Dad and Mom put Christmas gifts under the tree for us like they always did. And one of them I opened up, and there inside was a pocket watch. I had asked for a pocket watch, a silver pocket watch to be exact. It was a sterling silver pocket watch in the box. And when I picked the watch up out of the box, there was a note underneath it. And the note underneath it, as I thought, well, what's that? Opened it up, and there was a note. And it was the forgiveness of the money Dad and Mom had lent me to borrow that car. Just one of my favorite memories, and it kind of brings tears to my eyes even thinking back to it. So just one of my favorite memories of my dad and mom, and specifically my dad going buying a car with me. And so, yeah, it was just a lot of fun. Thankful for that. Second memory is a little guy by the name of Hanky. If my brother's listening, he'll remember Hanky. Not Hanky like in a handkerchief, but Hanky like in Hank. We called him Hanky. He was our age, a little bit younger, played in the neighborhood. And one time, Hanky got hurt. I don't remember what he got hurt of, but my dad was one of those dads who did what many of the parents did in my age, in my generation. They got out what was called methylate or mercurochrome. There was two different ones. One of them burned a little more than the other. And the one that burned a little more than the other made you nearly lose your mind when they put methylate on. And so my dad had Hanky there on the porch. The little guy had cut himself. He was bleeding. My dad washed him off. He put some methylate on Hanky, and I thought Hanky was going to lose his mind. So little Hank, he was just going crazy with his pain. But my dad held him and got him taken care of, had to hold him still a little bit because he was being awfully fidgety. And who wouldn't if you put methylate in a cut? And my dad put bandages on the wound and took care of Hank, and little Hanky we called him. And so I just remember that's just a funny scene I can still see in my mind to this day of my dad taking care of Hanky on the front porch of the house. And then one of my memories is just really amazing because if you knew, if you knew a little bit about my dad worked for General Motors but always bought Lincolns, Mercury's and Lincolns. He did have a Buick Electra 225 at one point, but always bought big cars. Matter of fact, Lincoln and Mercury, my mom, even when my mom passed, she still owned a Lincoln Mercury, which my dad had begun to initiate buying years ago. So my dad had bought this Lincoln. It was my senior year of high school. I was dating my girlfriend, who now is my wife, and we were going to go to the prom. And so I asked her out. We got our I got our tux. She got her dress, the whole 9 yards. Or maybe she asked me out. I don't remember which now that I think about it. But my dad then offered to let me drive the Lincoln to the prom. Man, when I pulled up, I was in the Lincoln. It was a Lincoln Continental. It was huge. It was a boat. Matter of fact, it has two boats compared to today's cars. And, big cars today aren't big like that big car back then. All metal, weighed a ton, actually multiple tons. But I think about my dad, and on my way home that night, I got too close to a curb and put a black mark on the white walls of his tire. And my dad noticed it and made me clean it off, because that's what you did. You took responsibility. But what a great memory driving the Lincoln to prom with my girlfriend, who's now my wife. Now, let me tell you something. My father wasn't perfect. Alcohol was a big portion of his life, a good portion of his life. And he gave his life to Christ later, and that struggle with alcohol went away. And there were some ups and downs from time to time. My dad knew what it was like to know forgiveness and know grace and not be controlled by alcohol any longer. And despite what other people have as far as memories when it comes to a father or mother or a parent or a loved one who has alcohol issues, I can honestly tell you I don't have any bad memories of my dad concerning the idea of my dad, unfortunately, oftentimes being a drunk. So I don't have a lot of bad memories of that. There's a few times there's some bad things that happen, sure. But I got to be honest with you, there's more good memories than bad. And so I thought about some of those memories and some of the lessons I learned from the things my dad taught me along the way. I was 16 when he gave his life to Christ. Might have been one of the reasons why he went and helped me buy a car, was because he had given his life to Christ, and it was just a different dad than it was before, and you just had to be there to see it. So, but what's interesting is that the lessons I learned from my father, and one of the first lessons I thought about this morning that I learned from my dad is I learned what compassion was. I wondered how I was going to get through this without tears. Sorry, you may be crying too, I don't know, but hang on, I'm going to try to get through these tears. But my dad was one of the most compassionate people. He could be as ornery and mean as can be. But when it came down to brass tacks, I remember many times when my father had to correct me, he would sit down and just in a compassionate, loving heart, he would tell me why he felt it was important for me to learn the lessons I learned and why he was correcting me. He taught me to work hard. I started mowing yards at the age of 11. He told me one of the neighbors needed his yard mowed, and so he went next door with me. He helped me mow the neighbor's yard, and when he got done mowing the neighbor's yard, he turned me loose from that point forward to mow the neighbor's yard. I'm not even sure if I got paid at that point. Somewhere down the road I did get paid, but I'm not even sure I got paid because my dad, who was a compassionate man, knew the neighbor needed someone to mow his yard, and he had a strapping 11-year-old boy, who, by the way, at 11 years of age, I was the same height as I am right now. I only weighed 136 pounds instead of the 190 pounds I weigh now. So my dad had this strapping 136-pound 11-year-old boy who was more than willing to listen to Dad and went and mowed the neighbor's yard. So I learned to work hard. I learned respect. I learned respect for women, which is almost gone in our culture. For men to respect women and treat women with respect, it's almost gone. We've begun to treat each other in such horrible ways. And that respect that my dad taught me is gone. I still practice that respect, and every so often someone will say something to me, and I'll say, listen, if heaven allows anybody to come back to earth for any length of time, and I don't treat you well, if my dad can get his hand down here, he'll slap me upside the face for not treating you with respect. I still open the door for other people. I open the door for women. I let other folks in line in front of me. I do not try to take first place, and all because of my father, who taught me to respect yourself by really respecting others. Because when you respect others, you're actually showing respect for yourself. He taught me that discipline was love. And again, I go back to thinking how many times that Dad gave me a spanking, smacked my bottom side with a number of different instruments of correction. And he taught me that discipline was love. And one time when he had disciplined me and he had felt a little bit of, I don't know what, I wouldn't call it guilt per se, but maybe it was. Afterwards, that he had been a little hard on me, he sat down on the bed next to me and he told me how much he loved me, that he did not enjoy spanking me, and that he wanted me to be person who grew up to be a good man. I still have that memory to this day. He also taught me something that others can joke and laugh about, I'm sure, but he taught me how to drive fast. Matter of fact, both mom and my dad, both at one point or another, were part of a driving drag racing cars at the drag strip there back home. So he taught me how to drive fast. Not everybody enjoys that, and I got to be honest with you, I've had to learn to hold down the speed. Unfortunately, I had received 7 tickets by the time I was 23 years old. I've maybe had 2 since. Got to learn your lesson. They sent you the letter, said if you don't change, you're going to change your ability to drive. And so you have to learn and grow up someday, and I had to learn and grow up. But Dad would light the tires up a few times on the car. And then my dad taught me that when you realize that Jesus loves you, you just surrender. Now, it took a lot of years of my mom praying for my dad, but it took a lot of years for my dad to surrender his life to Christ. But I remember him coming to church with us, and he would sit through, back then in the day, the altar call. And I remember many times just kind of looking at my dad like thinking he should get up and go to the altar and pray. But he didn't do it that way. Instead, one night, he called the pastor in the middle of the night after having a time with his friends drinking. The pastor came, talked to him, answered some questions. My dad knelt down next to the couch there in our living room and gave his life to Christ, because when my dad finally realized how much that Jesus loved him in spite of the choices he had made, then my father surrendered his life to Christ. Then last, and why I chose this one last, I don't know. It just was something special. For those who grew up in the area I grew up in, you know where Big Lake is at. And Big Lake was a place we used to go fishing all the time. My earliest memories of my father are going fishing with him out next to the Decker's house and the Wakemans out on Big Lake. And so just wonderful memories. And that was kind of revisited. Woo. That was kind of revisited recently, just a year ago. I believe it was. We were, Illinois with the grandkids, and I remembered my grandson going out and trying to fish, and the fidgetiness of this little guy trying to set and fish. And I realized how patient my father must have been to take us boys fishing, because we didn't sit still. We put it in the water and took it out of the water. We wouldn't leave it in long enough for the fish to bite. And so, what a wonderful memory of just growing up and fishing with my dad. My dad took us places almost every Saturday morning to go hang out in the woods, because there weren't many woods in our area. So we'd go find some woods. He'd go visit some friends and drink, and we'd go play in the woods, or we'd go fishing or something. So just wonderful memories. And I'm so glad that Dad realized that Jesus didn't hate him. With all the stuff he had done, all the things he had been, all the choices he had made, Jesus Christ could absolutely forgive. And he finally overcame that and accepted Christ as Savior. And because of that, I will see him again in heaven. And I'm looking forward to that day. There's a story I want to tell you to close. It's a story that helps me explain to you what it feels like and what it can feel like to know that there's going to be a reunion in heaven. Back a number of years ago, 30 years ago, while I was pastoring a church, the guys at the church took me fishing down to Reelfoot or down to Dale Hollow. I don't remember which one it was. But one of those days, we were close enough to my grandparents' home, about a 2-hour drive or so. So one of those days, I took off and drove over to my grandma and grandpa's, and I pulled up in the driveway of this place I remember from my childhood. They had lived there for years. And I pulled up the driveway, and there sitting on the porch was my Uncle Randall, who lived with my grandma and grandpa. And I remember getting out of the vehicle and looking up to the porch, and I hollered up to the porch, and I said, "Hey, do you know who I am?" And Randall, who, by the way, I was named after, his first name is William, my first name is William. Randall looked at me and he says, "You're Bill, you're Bonnie's boy." And what an amazing thing, after it had been, 16 years since I had seen him, 16 years since I'd seen my grandmother and grandfather. And I'm thinking to myself, how amazing that he knew who I was. And there I was in a place I was familiar with as an adult. I hadn't been there in years, and I felt totally at home. Walked up those porch steps, up that almost 8-foot porch, and began talking to my Unc. and then went inside and visited with Grandma and Grandpa. And what a great evening. Spent the night, left the next day after Grandma made me breakfast as she had many times in my youth. And here's why I told you that story is someday I look forward to seeing my father, and I don't know, maybe I come walking up to the side of glory. And there's my dad. And I say, hey, you know who this is? He says, how could I not know who this is? He said, come on, son, heaven's got a lot of things I want to show you. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be a great time. And I hope you know Jesus Christ as Savior. I hope you know there's going to be a homecoming someday. And I got to tell you, there can't be anything any better than going up to heaven and being welcomed the way I was welcomed to my grandparents' home that day. Hey, didn't mean to cry all the way through it, but I guess it's tough, as some of you know, because parents aren't with you any longer. And so it's tough. These holidays sometimes mean more, sometimes they don't. But when they do, they touch your heart because your loved one has touched your heart. My father touched my heart. And still consider him a hero. Not the best man in the world all the time. That's for sure, but for sure my hero. Imperfect, but saved. Not everything he should have been, but forgiven. And now perfect because he's in heaven. Hey, before we go to the tears, let me ask you. As we finish this morning, tell me, what's your favorite memory of your dad? Or what's your best dad joke? Yeah, what's your best dad joke? So just comment down below. Let me know what you think. I'm going to close up here and go blow my nose because probably not something pretty to do on camera. So don't forget to share Friday morning devotions with your friends and family. Don't forget to share on on all your social media outlets. Send an email to your friends and family and give them the link to Friday morning devotions and let them share in this time together like you share. And I'm looking forward to the day I'm going to see my Abba Father and my Savior Jesus. So for now, I say goodbye. Have a great weekend. And may the Lord bless you as you celebrate and as you enjoy time together with family this weekend. All right? Bye-bye now, and God bless.